Over the last decade of homeschooling, I have developed some, I don't know if bad habits is the right word, or unhealthy standards. I don't know what exactly the right wording is. But I've developed some things that I've decided that I am going to let go of this year. So today, we're going to talk about 5 things that I am letting go of this school year. Before I start sharing what I'm not doing this year, I'd love to know some standard or bad habit or whatever that you are throwing out this year. Let me know down there. First one, I am not going to hold my kids to ridiculous standards of learning. They will learn what they learn when they learn it, and they don't have to learn it all now. I sometimes feel like if they can't, we haven't done this, but let's just say that I'm wanting my kids to learn all the presidents in order. If they learn 10 of them, okay, that's fine. They don't have to know all 45 in order. In science right now, we're studying forensic science. We've just been working on fingerprinting. Well, if my kids can tell me some things about fingerprints, that's going to be good enough. I'm not going to care whether they can tell me all the different types of fingerprint patterns and be able to easily identify them. If they learn something, they'll learn something. If they don't, what they don't learn about forensic science now is not going to affect life. It's not going to affect their future. It just is what it is. And that brings me to number 2. I'm not going to hold myself to a ridiculous standard of what I have to teach, and to try to force myself to make sure that they learn it all now. This is one I really struggle with sometimes. It's rooted in perfection for me, which I'm not the perfectionist type who everything looks perfect. I'm the perfectionist type who doesn't, because I can't. I have too much of that perfection in me to, I won't attempt things knowing that I can't do it perfectly. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's my type of perfection that I struggle with. And I've been working on a unit for our history. We're going to do a deep dive next semester. We're doing mostly science this semester, mostly history next semester, about Africa. Well, when I started this, I thought there would be a fair amount of resources, and there's not. So I'm piecing it all together. And at times I've gotten to this point where okay, well, that ended in the year 300. What started in 301? Well, it doesn't matter. If we have gaps in what we learn, I'm going to go with it. If it's not a complete study of the entire history of Africa, well, okay. There's no way I can do that. And so I'm not going to force myself. I'm not going to hold myself to that standard that it has to be that way. It's going to be what it is. Whatever they learn is going to be more than what they would have learned or what they knew beforehand. And that is going to be good enough. Because holding my kids to ridiculous standards and holding myself to ridiculous standards means that we often come to a standstill and we don't make progress. And it has to be progress over perfection. This didn't used to be something that I struggled with in our homeschool. But over the years, it's really gotten bad, in my opinion. And I don't want that for my kids. I just want them to enjoy learning. And I want to enjoy it with them. When I've held ourselves to that standard, it's gotten, what's the word, I guess just unenjoyable, because I'm so busy focusing on making sure everything is covered that I'm not just going with it. I'm not letting ourselves explore the things that we're interested in more or skim over the things that are boring us. I I'm zapping the fun out of all of this and the enjoyment of it. And I can't do that anymore. It's not good for them, and it's not good for me. I'm not going to run myself ragged. Not during the days and not during the evenings. Now, in part, this one's pretty easy to implement right now because it's COVID season. So there's not a lot of opportunities. But setting that aside, we've had the years where we've been so busy that we're gone 5 evenings a week and then most of Saturday. I'm not doing that. It wears us all out. It's a ridiculous standard. We've also had seasons where we've been so busy with things during the day that other schoolwork isn't getting done. And I know that for a lot of people, they say, well, they're still learning, they're out doing different activities and such. And that's true. And being with people and all that is important. It's an important part of our homeschool. But I firmly believe that there can be too many of those things and not enough other learning. What that means for every family is going to be different. But if we're too busy doing things that even our basics aren't getting done well, then that's not acceptable for me. All of those other activities and time with friends and everything, those are so important. But my job as a homeschool parent is to make sure, my long-term job here is to make sure that they're ready for adulthood. So for our family, that includes knowing at the very minimum all the basics. A good education in math, reading skills, writing skills, all of those things. We also have standards for knowledge about history and science and all of that. For our family, that is really important. And it's really, it can be easy to say, well, at this activity they're learning math, or at this activity they're learning history, use field trip. And it's true, and I believe all of that. I just also have seen enough directly and more of an observational thing to know that sometimes we fill up our days with the fun things because it's a lot more fun than sitting at home doing multiplication tables. And my other fear is that, to go along with that, back to COVID, is that while there's not a lot of opportunities to go places right now, I worry that as things start opening up, I'm going to feel the guilt of, well, they've been missing out for so long that now I need to fill it up. And I really can't do that. Moving on. I'm not going to sacrifice the things that we love for the sake of finishing curriculum. It, for me at least, can be really hard to not get focused on finishing everything that I said we were going to finish. You relate? Or feeling like we need to finish every page in the math book or whatever. And I have a friend who one year was going into July and they hadn't finished their math yet from that year. The rest of the stuff they had finished back in May, but math hadn't been finished. And her kids were doing 3 or 4 lessons a day trying to finish it off. They finally finished it. And then the new school year started in September. It's like they don't remember anything. So it's like they didn't learn anything. And I gently kind of said, well, maybe it's because you were doing so many lessons that they weren't really absorbing anything. And I can say that to her because it was her. And it kind of dawned on her. She's like, oh, maybe. And so I've had similar experiences, like where we're just getting things done to get them done, and no real learning is going on. But I feel like we have to do it because that's what the schedule says. Throw the schedule out. If you have it used to be that every December we would do kind of set aside most of our curriculum and do some kind of a winter-themed big unit study. I'm not a big unit study person, as you know, but that was something that I enjoyed, and the kids enjoyed it. And then as they got a little older, I felt like, oh, we shouldn't do that because we have all these other things to do. We enjoyed it, so why was it wrong to set aside? If we didn't finish the last 10 chapters in history when my oldest was in 4th grade, who cares? She was 10, almost 16 now. She's got a better handle on history. And it's not because we finished all those chapters, it's because she's older and she's learned more and some of these things just keep coming back up. So if you have, you come across, you're studying science and everybody's really enjoying one topic, well, keep going with it. Add on more to it. Don't worry about whether or not everything gets done. You can just ditch it at the end of the year, or you can push it off to next year. It will be fine. But diving in and embracing what you're enjoying, that's really important. And that's part of why we homeschool, because we want that flexibility. I'm not going to let other people's schedules dictate our days. My phone goes on priority mode during school. There are certain people who have, who will ring through. Otherwise, I'm not going to answer it. Now, if the same person keeps calling me over and over, and I see it, well, maybe I'll answer it. Otherwise, it can wait until lunchtime. I have app blockers on the phone, different devices, my laptop, so that we only can go to certain websites, so that I'm not getting distracted by other things. The doorbell ringing can go unanswered. And right now, lots of people are home with COVID, schooling at home and such. And for the most part, no one's coming during the school hours for us. But if they do, the door can go unanswered. Lawn care people come. As long as they know what to do, let it go unanswered. Whatever it is, unless it's really, really a priority, in which case you'll probably know it and plan ahead for that. Let your schedule determine your day, not what anyone else has to say. Rare are the phone calls that are really that urgent, or the people knocking on the door that are really that important. Emails, texts, Facebook messages, all of that can be set aside. Because when I feel bound to other people's schedules, I get kind of cranky. Do you? I get cranky feeling like I have to answer the phone and interrupt my day. So not only am I cranky because I feel I'm being interrupted, then that rolls off and I end up being cranky with the kids because I'm feeling stressed from that, and it just spills over to them. And then the day's just not going to go well. The rest of the day just gets interrupted. Plus, there's just the general interruption of me stopping what we're doing and dealing with someone else. And that's not going to happen. I can't let that ruin our days or affect our days negatively. When life happens, of course. Life happens. But that doesn't mean that the everyday things have to become those things. The everyday things can be set aside until your schedule dictates it, not what other people's schedules dictate. I'll see you in the next video.